My name is Kendall Shaw, 32, and until this morning, I held the position of COO at Shaw Riverfront Logistics. The boardroom door hadn't even clicked shut behind me when my brother's voice cut through the air. We don't need someone living off the legacy, Kendall. Easton, 25, fresh NBA Rolex gleaming under the Memphis sun streaming through the 12th floor windows, didn't wait for silence. He pointed directly at me. Clear your office by tomorrow. Our father, the CEO, remained frozen at the head of the table. Last year, he had quietly shifted his voting shares to Easton. I had kept delivering results, so no one had questioned it. Until now. The three outside directors stared at their laptops, expressionless. No one flinched. I nodded once, rose, and walked out. If your own family has ever backstabbed you at work, hit like and subscribe. Tomorrow morning is when the real story ignites. The next morning, 7:15 a.m., I swiped my badge at the executive elevator and rode silently to the 15th floor. The doors opened with a soft chime, and motion lights guided me toward the glass entrance of my corner office. I pushed the door open. The ceiling hissed behind me as it rose. Emerson, my assistant of 7 years, was already inside, perched on the edge of the reception desk, clutching a steaming takeaway cup in one hand and his phone in the other. Kendall, your brother has completely lost it, he said. You personally built nearly 40% of the high-margin lease portfolio, the true revenue engine, starting at just 24. He can't erase a full decade of strategic pipeline with a single dramatic boardroom declaration. I said nothing. I walked across the open space in measured steps, my heels silent against the high-grade concrete floor. At the far end, I knelt beside the sleek credenza and pressed my thumb to the biometric scanner embedded in the wall safe. A quiet click, the panel slid aside. Inside rested one item, a thick, expandable red-weld folder, corners worn from repeated use, the label handwritten in my precise block letters. I lifted it carefully and set it flat on the expansive desk. KS Warehouse Advisors, LLC, I said, flipping it open to the official incorporation documents, stamped exactly 4 years ago. I had created this entity as a tax-efficient pass-through vehicle, specifically designed to optimize leases spanning multiple jurisdictions and state lines. Every flagship contract explicitly names it as the contractual lessor, deliberately separating it from the core operating company. Emerson stepped closer, leaning in to inspect the densely packed pages of the writer. The board had actually reviewed and signed off on these amendments. Every single rider and schedule was initialed. They scrutinized terms like accelerated depreciation benefits and like-kind exchange structuring, never pausing at the controlling entity designation at the top, never asking a single follow-up question or raising a concern. I flipped to the comprehensive portfolio summary sheet. 23 active lease agreements. Total controllable square footage under management, $4.8 million. Current annualized revenue run rate, $28.4 million, reflecting a steady 9.3% compound growth over the past 6 consecutive quarters. Emerson exhaled slowly through his teeth. That segment is the absolute profit lifeline. Correct. I folded the red weld shut, slid it into the slim carbon fiber briefcase waiting on the visitor chair, and clicked the dual combination locks into place. 2 distinct, deliberate clicks, and the lifeline has now officially been redirected to new ownership. He moved toward the floor-to-ceiling window, hands buried in his pockets, watching a long towboat push 3 loaded barges southward against the current. The standard renewal cycle starts in exactly 90 days, he said. Apex Covenant Delta. They all require your proprietary dynamic routing tables and lane optimization models. No blind commitments. Full confirmation only. I turned the safe dial until the internal bolts fully engaged, then slipped the mechanical override key into the inner pocket of my blazer. Identical algorithms operating under a different contractual lessor. Emerson faced me directly. You are formally activating the full contingency protocol. The protocol was triggered the moment Dad executed the voting control transfer last year, I replied, retrieving my tailored coat from the discreet wall hook. I had merely pre-engineered the release mechanism. He nodded once, taking in the implications. The mechanism is now fully deployed, fully operational. I checked the minimalist wall clock, 7:29 sharp. Inform facilities management I will be fully vacated by 11 o'clock. No packing cartons. No external movers. One briefcase only. Emerson lingered at the office threshold for a moment. Kendall, your parents? Parents don't execute lease throughput commitments, I said, stepping into the bright hallway. Shippers and tenants do. The elevator arrived seconds later. I pressed G for garage level. The descent was smooth, uninterrupted. In the sublevel lobby, security acknowledged my exit with a casual wave. No additional badge scan required. I crossed the climate-controlled plaza, descended the dedicated garage ramp, and found my sedan in the assigned executive slot, C4. I placed the briefcase on the passenger seat, started the engine with a low hum, and shifted into reverse. The backup camera displayed an empty space. I guided the car up the spiral ramp, emerged into daylight, and merged seamlessly onto Riverside Drive. The Mississippi River stretched to my immediate left, calm, vast, immutable. I had spent an entire decade building and maintaining the family's infrastructure barriers. Now the entire flow of control ran solely through me. I pressed firmly on the accelerator, heading eastbound, keeping steady pressure on the pedal as the headquarters building shrank gradually to a distant silver glint in the rearview mirror. That same afternoon, around 2 p.m., I was driving east on I-240, approaching a traffic light, when the dashboard console flashed. The office landline auto-forwarded to the vehicle's Bluetooth. Without taking my eyes off the road, I hit accept on the steering wheel. Kendall Shaw, Craig Brooks, Apex Warehousing. The familiar clatter of warehouse forklifts and pallet jacks scraping concrete drifted faintly through the line. Easton had just shot off an email announcing he was the new point of contact. Our master lease had hit the 60-day renewal mark. We've committed to your proprietary routing algorithms. 18% hard-coded savings, he said. What exactly is happening here? He'd figure it out soon enough. Craig made a sharp, half-laugh, half-growl noise. The signature block wasn't tied to the family nameplate. Send over the renewal package. I'll circulate countersign terms through the actual lessor entity before the end of the day. Emailing now. And then the line went dead. I stayed in my lane, hands steady at 10 and 2. 9 minutes ticked by on the dash clock before my personal phone vibrated against the center console. Caller ID, CEO direct line. I hit accept. File hop. Jongju. Easton's words came fast, rising in volume. Craig was refusing to extend without the original documents in hand. I eased into the right lane, signaling for the upcoming exit. 4 years ago, I had completely overhauled the leasing framework from the ground up. KS Advisor functioned as a dedicated leasing intermediary, a separate layer designed for tax efficiency and liability isolation. Dad had reviewed and initialed every document, interpreting the structure as routine optimization. At the time, no one imagined the entity could operate entirely independently. You can't possibly. I terminated the connection. I navigated the off-ramp, merged onto surface streets, and looped back toward downtown in under 4 minutes. I pulled into the visitor parking deck, slotting into an open space on level 3. Elevator to 15. The hallway was deserted, fluorescent lights humming overhead. I swiped my key card and pushed the office door open one last time. The brass nameplate still read, Shaw Riverfront Logistics. From the desk drawer, I produced a small Phillips screwdriver, loosened the 4-corner screws, lifted the heavy plate, and let it drop with a metallic clank into the cardboard disposal box set beside the credenza. Laptop powered down. I initiated the secure erase protocol on the local SSD, watching the progress bar crawl inch by inch until it finally reached completion. All peripherals were disconnected. One last visual sweep of the filing cabinets. Bare. The whiteboard wiped clean, personal items gone. I stepped back into the corridor and pulled the door closed. The electronic lock clicked into place with a definitive thunk. Back in the garage, I slid into the driver's seat, reversed out, and spiraled down the ramp toward the exit barrier. The gate arm lifted automatically. I accelerated southbound, Germantown bound, the skyline shrinking behind me. 2 days later, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. My front door camera pinged as the first SUV rolled up the driveway. I opened the door to read. Project manager, 10 years in the trenches with me, flanked by 6 others carrying laptop bags and rolled blueprints. The core team was assembled. Non-compete only locks Tennessee accounts, Reed said as he crossed the threshold. Arkansas and Mississippi are wide open. I led them through the foyer into the living room. Oak herringbone floors, sectional pushed back. 8 folding chairs arranged around the low walnut coffee table. Reed handled quick introductions, 3 operations leads, 2 data analysts, 1 regulatory compliance specialist. All had tendered resignations at exactly 9 a.m. Lennon, my college roommate turned M&A counsel for warehousing transactions, arrived last, wheeling a slim aluminum briefcase filled with fresh drafts. We took our seats. I connected my laptop to the 75-inch wall screen and opened the KS Advisor pitch deck. The goal: validate the model at scale without any legacy branding. I clicked to the site overview slide. 2 pilot warehouses, Little Rock and Jackson. Combined footprint, 600,000 square feet tolerance. 6-month memorandum of understanding with purchase option at fair market value. Lennon distributed stapled copies. Landlords pre-qualified. Base lease rate locked at 15% below current market comps, contingent on immediate occupancy and capex commitment. Reed flipped to the equipment schedule. Racking, conveyors, WMS integration. All fully budgeted in the capital line. Turnkey installation within 30 days of move-in. An operations lead raised a hand. Routing engine and lane optimization software. My proprietary codebase was already migrated to a private cloud. Access keys issued upon execution. Lennon opened the compensation folder. Base salary increased 15% across the board. 1% fully diluted equity granted on day 1. 4-year linear vesting. Full acceleration on change of control. The compliance specialist scanned the benefits page. Medical, dental, for a 1K match effective immediately. Upgraded dental plan, 6% match. Reed leaned in. Go live timeline. Occupancy within 30 calendar days. First inbound truckload 45 days post-signature. A brief pause, then unanimous nods. Lennon produced a stack of blue ink pens. Execution first, then individual offer letters. I signed the cover page of the top draft, dated it, and slid it clockwise. 7 signatures flowed in rapid succession, each stroke deliberate beneath the warm glow of the recessed lights. Reed clicked his pen shut with a sense of finality. We're officially operational. Lennon collected the executed originals. Electronic filing with the Secretary of State was scheduled for tonight. The LLC operating agreement amendment queued for tomorrow morning. I distributed the pre-printed offer letters. Names, titles, compensation already filled in. Each team member reviewed, initialed the acknowledgement box, signed and dated. Hands shook across the table. Commitment sealed. By 8:17 p.m., headlights swept the cul-de-sac as everyone filed out. Once the engines faded, I secured the deadbolt, poured a glass of water at the kitchen island, and spread the signed originals across the dining table for a final review. Phase 1 locked and loaded. A week later, Monday at 9 a.m., my laptop pinged with an incoming Zoom link. Emerson appeared on screen, seated in his home office, shelves of color-coded binders behind him. Kendall, the board just called an emergency session for 10 o'clock. Your name is the only item on the agenda. Employment status clarification. They expect you in the 12th floor conference room. I muted the live drone feed from the Jackson pilot site, streaming on my secondary monitor. Decline. My calendar is blocked. Emerson leaned closer to the camera. Your father is running the meeting. The 3 outside directors are demanding a full report. Understood, I said, clicking end on the Zoom window. The house phone rang instantly. Caller ID flashed Mom's cell. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Kendall. Patricia's voice held that polished southern drawl she reserved for bridge club and charity galas. Your father wants you to come downtown and talk this through. Not as a former executive, as his daughter. I watched the Baton Rouge landlord shared screen cursor blink on the lease draft, waiting for my final edits on the indemnity clause. Relay the message that I'm tied up in a critical negotiation. I rejected the auto-populated board meeting invite on my phone. Patricia paused. The silence felt heavy. He's concerned. We both are. Blood runs thicker than any contract, sweetheart. The landlord messaged in the chat box. Green light on final red lines, I replied. Advance to section 8.2, cross-default provisions. Blood doesn't retroactively rewrite board votes that strip a decade of documented revenue contribution. My voice stayed steady. I have a firm cutoff at 9:15. She exhaled softly. Kindle, please. I replaced the receiver, toggled the ringer to do not disturb, and returned to the Baton Rouge video conference. Sorry for the brief interruption. I addressed the grid of 8 participants. Lennon, Reed, 2 newly hired site superintendents, and 3 equipment vendors. Let's finalize the 1.1 million square foot expansion package. Reed Screen shared the updated financial model, with phased capital expenditures over 18 months, projecting an internal rate of return exceeding 22%, including sensitivity analysis on fuel surcharge fluctuations. Lennon scrolled to the incentive summary. The Economic Development Authority had confirmed the 10-year payment in lieu of taxes agreement. 75% abatement in year 1, stepping down 5% each year. A vendor representative asked about electrical infrastructure. Redundant utility feeds, dual substation transformers as specified in the RFP, and uninterruptible power supplies covering all automated sortation lanes. We moved slide by slide through the target occupancy. Initial revenue recognition was set for Q3, with positive cash flow in Q4. By month 8 post-go live, at 10:51 a.m., the term sheet was flawless. Lennon generated DocuSign envelopes and distributed links to all parties. Electronic signatures arrived sequentially. Landlord entity, KS Advisors LLC, and the local power cooperative. Transaction complete. I shut down the laptop at 11:04 a.m. The board line showed 0 missed calls. Dad's phone displayed no new texts. Phase 2 was fully capitalized. 3 weeks later, Thursday the 11th, 8 a.m., the Memphis Warehousing Symposium filled the Marriott Grand Ballroom with over 500 supply chain executives, badge lanyards clinking against coffee cups. I stepped onto the main stage beneath a crisp Chaos Advisor banner in navy and silver. No trace of the old family logo anywhere. Craig Brooks had delivered the introduction 4 minutes earlier. Apex National Vice, President of Distribution, speaking in measured corporate tones. 0 mention of Shaw Riverfront. I advanced the remote to the opening slide. Apex National Fulfillment Framework. $20 million 3-year master services agreement. Apex National designated KS Advisors as the sole labor and routing optimization provider for 28 strategic nodes nationwide. My voice carried through the house system. Projected annual volume, 42 million cartons processed. Fixed base rate with built-in performance escalators tied to on-time delivery and damage-free metrics. The next slide displayed the continental map, 28 red pins stretching from the Laredo crossdock to the Newark high-velocity hub. Phase 1 activation, 2.4 million square feet operational by Q1. Full national footprint live by Q4 of the next calendar year. Polite, enthusiastic applause swept the room. Smartphone cameras angled upward. Craig ascended the 3 steps to join me, thick contract folio tucked under one arm. We positioned ourselves at the signing table draped in black linen. Dual pens, Mlank style, moved in unison across the execution blocks. The notary pressed her embossed seal beside each signature line. $20 million committed. We exchanged the standard grip and grin for the official photographer, then stepped aside as the moderator announced the next panel. By 1:18 p.m., my advance team had claimed the new East Memphis headquarters, 3,200 contiguous square feet on the 8th floor of the Crescent Center Tower, floor-to-ceiling glass providing an unobstructed southern view of the river bend. Reed directed the fiber optic crew as they threaded Cat 6 cabling through the raised floor grid. Lennon placed the newly issued Tennessee LLC certificate into a brushed steel frame beside the frosted glass reception desk. I walked through the space. 20 open-plan workstations, each with dual 27-inch monitors, 3 glass-enclosed conference pods outfitted with 4K video bars, and a dedicated war room with 485-inch dashboard screens cycling real-time KPI feeds. The vendor coordination sheet noted Shaw Riverfront Logistics in column F, designated solely as an ancillary carrier for spot market overflow. No dedicated lanes, no priority routing, no master-lesser hierarchy. Purely a support contractor. I opened the live revenue pipeline. The Apex National contract was already contributing $1.8 million in projected monthly recurring billings, trending upward with seasonal spikes. The updated pro forma lit up in green. Capital recovery projected by month 4, target EBITDA margin 28% in the first fiscal year, scaling to 33% by year 3. My phone vibrated. Local 901 prefix, unknown number. I swiped to voicemail. An immediate follow-up text from Reed at Legacy HQ. Desperate RFP submitted for excess capacity. Attached rate sheet demanded a 40% market premium. I typed a counteroffer. 55% search charge, net 10, cash in advance. His reply. Thumbs up emoji, followed by an exploding head gif. By 4:42 p.m., the office thrummed with controlled energy. Laser printers spat out addenda. Junior analysts stress-tested lane simulations, and the compliance officer uploaded hazardous materials endorsements to the state portal. I paused at the corner window, sunlight catching the slow-moving barges below. Shaw Riverfront had been relegated to subcontractor status in its original stronghold. KS Advisors now controlled the full value chain. 2 months later, Friday, 12:30 p.m. The Peabody Hotel lobby echoed with the familiar quack of the Daily Duck March, red-carpeted procession making its way to the fountain. I moved across the marble expanse in measured steps, blazer-buttoned, toward the arched entrance of Chez Phip restaurant. Patricia stood immediately upon spotting me, her double-strand pearls shifting over a cream silk blouse. Tall crystal glasses of iced tea awaited. "Kendall, darling," she said, extending both hands. "Thank you for accepting on such short notice." I offered a brief clasp before sliding into the opposite velvet chair. The matron poured my tea without asking, a lemon wedge balanced on the rim. Patricia smoothed her napkin over her lap. "Your father and I have talked this through at length. We owe you a sincere apology." The board acted hastily. Easton moved without the full context. We should have insisted on a proper dialogue before any vote. I rotated the lemon in my tea clockwise with the silver spoon. The vote is recorded. The contracts had already shifted hands. Regret didn't undo signed intentions. She surveyed the refined setting. Waiters in crisp white coats gliding among linen-clad tables, and lowered her tone. "He's drowning," she murmured. "Key clients are withdrawing. He knows where he went wrong." A waiter set Maryland's crab cakes onto chilled porcelain. I cut into one with care. "Easton demanded control," I replied. Control was granted. The market answers its own audit. Patricia's manicured hand stiffened around her glass. "A family legacy isn't a profit ledger," she countered. "We raised you on loyalty, respect, and continuity." I placed my knife neatly beside the plate. "You raised me to build worth," I said. "I built it. The structure just outgrew your design." She leaned closer, her voice turning gentle. "Come for Sunday dinner. No business talk, just the 4 of us." I drew my hand away from the table's rim. "I'm still a Shaw mom, but the Shaw you imagine isn't sitting here anymore." Her breath caught, eyes searching my face for the child she once knew. I motioned for the waiter, signed the member slip, and rose. The duck à l'orange is remarkable this season. My heels struck the terrazzo floor in steady clicks as I passed the fountain spray and stepped into the noon sun without a backward glance. 6 months later, Tuesday, 8 a.m. The East Memphis strategy room pulsed with green indicators. Chaos Apex Solutions, my rebranded national enterprise, reported $18 million trailing revenue over 12 months, climbing 41% quarter to quarter. Reed slid a printed profit and loss sheet toward me. "Apex National alone is fueling 62%, he said. "Covenant and Delta make up the rest." I initialed the lower corner. "File it with the auditors. Cue the Series A pitch for Q1. Lennon entered, tablet raised. Breaking update. Shaw Riverfront just declared a 30% staff reduction. Effective immediately." The room fell silent. Analyst froze mid-keystroke. Reed opened the press bulletin on the main screen. Portfolio adjustment amid market contraction. Stock already down 11% before open. I scanned the summary. No acknowledgement of fleeing clients. No word on failed leases. A second alert arrived. An internal memo from my old contact at headquarters. Subject line, leadership transition. Easton Shaw resigning as CEO, returning to a consulting role. The board naming an external interim. I closed the file. They were cauterizing the wound. Reed leaned back. 30% cut. That's what, 200 people? 212, Lennon corrected. Mostly ops and mid-tier managers. Sales was gutted last month. I stood and walked to the window. Below, the Mississippi moved wide and murky, barges strung along like beads. 18 million in fresh contracts. 30% layoffs at the legacy firm. Easton benched. I spoke to the glass. Loyalty carries worth only when it's deserved. The river kept flowing.